Okay.
Okay. I'm on kind of a little screen today. Is it still windy?
We can hear it, but it's not that bad.
All right, I'm just going to change my location. Hey, Derek. Is that any better?
You keep getting progressively better. You should go outside. Well, actually, no, today's rainy.
I think it's raining.
If it was tomorrow, you should go outside.
All right, let me just make a little real estate here on my desktop so I can check the agenda. All right, well, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's 10:04, and we've got Chad, Derek, Tammy, Mark, and me. And I did just send a note out to Ed to see if he can join us. Hopefully he will. And so are there any additions or deletions to our agenda today?
Tammy, those couple of things that that we discussed with Kate.
It was the forms, right? And I believe Matt added that already.
Oh, okay, then excellent.
Yeah, I got an email from Tammy yesterday to add forms, so I added that to item 7.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other additions or deletions? Well, all right then, let's go on to public comment. Are there any members of the public? Seeing none.
There is one today. Elizabeth Starr was joining in. She's in the car with me.
Oh, hello, Elizabeth.
Morning, Elizabeth.
Hey,
awesome.
Our first member of the public.
Yay, we got one.
Welcome.
All right. Elizabeth, do you have anything you'd like to add or any questions for us today? Well, we might have lost her over Searsburg.
We lose a lot over Searsburg.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's have a quick review of the notes from March 31st, which was linked in the agenda. Does anybody need a link to that, or is everybody good?
Good. I'll move it for approval.
Thank you. Mark has moved. Any second for that? Is that Derek? Did you just bid on that? Derek seconds. Any discussion?
There we go.
Any discussion about the minutes?
Look good to me.
Okay, thank you for taking them. Tammy, I believe, last meeting did our minutes. Tammy, are you taking notes again today?
I am,
Awesome.
if that's okay.
Thank you very much. Very good. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
You already have the motion.
Oh, I do. That's right. That was the discussion. That's right. Sorry, lost track. All those in favor of approving the minutes from March 31st, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? I think the ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. Do we have any correspondence?
Before you go to correspondence, I do just have a couple of notes on minutes, not these minutes.
Okay.
Meg, we got to send her the approved ones. She still has a lot of draft minutes in the folder.
Okay.
I can send you the I'll send you the list of them. A couple of things are named improperly also with wrong dates.
Okay. Do you want to shoot the approved minutes to Meg, Mark, when they're good to go?
I don't know if I have them all.
Oh, okay.
I think all I need to do is go in the folder and just rename the approved ones and then shoot them to Meg, right?
Yeah, and just put the approved date at the bottom of them.
Okay.
So we know that they were approved.
Yeah, I thought I'd been doing that, but I'll double check, Mark.
She just may not have updated some of them.
Okay.
I was looking at policy committee minutes, get those all straightened out, and I noticed a few that weren't weren't totally kosher, like the wrong dates, missing letters. And that's not from you. That's just her when she typed in the file names, I think. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up so we get that straight.
Quick question about that. Are we all working from the same folder? And the one that I'm hoping we're working from is the one that Mark created among the board documents. And it's got like current meeting, website implementation committee. Does everybody feel like we're working from the same folder?
I've been going to links in the documents you've been sending us, so I haven't actually looked, but do you want, I just remember that folder's kind of ours, although it's public.
Yeah, the public one.
Yeah, what Meg does is over on the SU side.
Right, and I don't mind what Meg does. Like, I sort of feel like she's going to do her thing. But for us, I think it's important for us to keep track of the documents the way that the board does as a subcommittee of the board, just so it's consistent. And even if we change it or move it, that's fine. But we have a folder under current meeting called Website Implementation Committee. And Mark had started making a folder for each meeting, very much like he does for the board docs. And I just want to make sure we're all kind of contributing to that folder so that we're keeping good records.
You're the only one that has access to that, Matt.
Oh, I am. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's your pleasure? Would you like me to continue?
I can give more people access to it just because it's public facing. I want to kind of just limit it so that we don't make mistakes or put wrong documents or something in there by accident.
Okay, I don't mind if we just kind of, now that I know that it's kind of like in my hands to file the files, I'll do that. And I'll just, if it's okay, I'll continue using that folder that you made, Mark.
Absolutely, I think that makes the most sense.
Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna have to spend a little time getting that up to date, just because, for example, there was no 412 in there today, and there was no 331. So I'll add those. I'll add those to it, and then start, putting the documents there so we can rely on that in the future.
And then Matt, if you wouldn't mind sharing the folder with me, because I am using a different folder.
Oh, you are?
The RVUSD website project folder. And within that folder, there's several different folders, agendas, meeting minutes, and that looks like it for now. So it might be my mistake, but I don't think I have access to the original one. So I was just kind of creating from one of the folders that was shared with me originally, a folder that you and I share under the RVUSD documents that we both have access to.
Yeah,
I think I might have made that folder, Tammy, like when we started this project, just so I could store things. And so, yeah, that's what we're doing. So let's make the board one, the official one, and we'll keep documents organized by meeting the way Mark has been doing for the board. And then we can point Meg to that folder for the most recent minutes and such. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, I don't want to make that folder a working folder. It's just a place to put documents.
Okay, that's fine. That makes sense. Just kind of storage, like a storage plan.
Yeah, because it's what's on the top, and you can put it on our agenda. The link. It's just meeting.docs.rvusd.net. Not yeah. It's what is at the top of all of our board agendas and committee agenda things. So I just want to make sure that it stays, because it's public facing. Let's keep it clean and just a repository, not a working directory.
Got it. I think that's fine. So does it make sense, maybe, Tammy, rather than have the folder shared out, is that you just send me the stuff and I'll stick it in there, or Mark?
Yeah, I can just CC you when I send them to Meg.
Perfect. Mark, you good with that?
Perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Anything else to add before we go on to correspondence? Thank you. Any correspondence? No, you haven't got any hate mail or love letters?
I've gotten
Great.
some hate mail, but not on this topic.
Okay.
That's
All right,
coming,
well, let's-
that's coming from legislators.
Oh, boy. All right, well, I still don't see Ed, so why don't we go ahead and hold off on item 5 and discuss item 6. Has everybody had a chance to review the navigation in the spreadsheet that Cynthia shared?
Yeah, I had one thing which I meant to bring up at the last meeting and said I had something to bring up, and then I forgot to bring it up. I'd like to add on the district site a link to Brattleboro TV site for RVUSD. And I
So that's the BCTV channel?
Yeah, and I can I think it's just give me 1 second. Yeah, it's just video.rvusd.net.
That's great. Do you want to just send that notification to Ed and Cynthia directly, or would you like me to do that, or do you think we can just?
I can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, go ahead and send that email to them directly. I think that's fine.
Okay.
Great. Any other navigation questions?
I think there was just one I had emailed you guys about, just the having the tech resources link for both schools separate.
Yeah, would you put them on the school pages, Derek? Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah.
Does that make sense to everybody? Put the school tech resources, which do differ a little bit based on the school's needs, on the school pages.
I think that makes sense because there are no district-wide resources that are for outside, for the public, unlike the tech resources in the schools, which are for students and faculty and parents.
Right. That makes sense. Should we maybe keep a running note of these things that we want to tell Cynthia?
Yeah, I might as well. Since I'm going to email her about the video anyway.
Perfect. Any other comments on the navigation? I had one comment, and that was just that I had reached out to Greg about the name of the page for, asbestos abatement plan, lead testing, PFCs, all those acronyms now. And Greg doesn't really seem to have a strong opinion about what it should be called. So I just recommended, I put a note in the spreadsheet and ended that it be called, what did I put up? What did I suggest? Proper name, environmental safety, and that be on the district page and not the individual school pages. Everybody okay with that?
What did you name it, Matt?
I just recommended, environmental safety.
Okay, safety.
I like
So
that
to
name.
be broad enough to deal with well issues as well as building issues or capital plans. Who knows what we might want to put in there in the future.
And that can go under facilities.
It would go under facilities, right? Yeah. All right. Any other navigation questions or suggestions?
Since Chad just joined us again, let me give him a chance.
Chad, if you can hear us, we were talking about the website navigation. Just wondering if you had any suggestions or questions. Well, all right then.
Apparently not. He's all good.
Rural cellular is a beautiful thing. All right, we'll move on to item 7, which is the item Tammy asked to add, and that was about forms. Tammy, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Well, I'll definitely let the committee know, but I'm not sure that we can do anything or move anything about it. I think we need Ed for this. From the policy committee meeting, we were hoping that some of the forms will be fillable, which I think we discussed, but also that some of that information can be saved from year to year so that parents can just make updates within the form. And then in addition to that, parents would also have the ability to, if they have multiple kids in the school, so for kids that have siblings, that they don't have to go in and refill the forms each time with the same information, just because it's so repetitive, and it takes parents a lot of time to put that info in. So I'm not certain if that's really a question for Ed, if they'll have the capabilities of that, or maybe that's more of a tech question for Derek and Matt. You guys might be able to speak to that.
Derek, you have some thoughts on that?
I can just say from a technical perspective, it's completely possible. It's a question of implementation and the fact that it would probably require user accounts to do it year to year. Although it could be done with a with just an encrypted link, which is sent out when somebody submits it. But I don't know if that. Then you end up with help desk calls, because when they go to next year to fill it in again, they're not going to remember that link or have the email or something along those lines. So these are good questions for Ed, though. I think the ability to fill a form in with basic household information and then with student information, multiple student information, should be relatively easy to do as long as they build the forms properly. And I just say I think we've mentioned this to them, but I want to make sure that these forms are River Valley's forms, and that they're not building separate forms for the individual schools. If there are questions or aspects that are important for each school to ask, then we should have a section of the form for that school. But let's keep it a River Valley's form.
Yeah, so I think to make it secure, you'd have to have like a login credential for every parent.
Yeah, and Matt, I know I've asked you this before, probably 5 or 6 times, and I never remember the answer. Do all parents get like a PowerSchool login?
No, not at this point. The system can do it, but we haven't distributed them yet because there was really nothing useful that they could do once logged in.
Well, and it may have to be on the website side, but there may be good reason for that going forward. Maybe it's a way. I don't know if there are options in school lunches. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I think that's the hope, Mark, is that there's a new school lunch platform on the horizon right now. That will have some connection, and frankly, the tech team at Wyndham Central is considering changing the SIS, the Student Information System, from PowerSchool to another platform. So that's really going to upend, a lot of what we've got in place. So I would hesitate to put something hardcore in place until we have some of those two things at least really kind of settled in a little bit.
Well, and I think for the forms aspect of it, it would be a River Valley sign in anyway, not a PowerSchool. I mean, it could, I guess it theoretically could be, but isn't our finance system made by PowerSchool?
Yes.
So it doesn't seem to make, well, I shouldn't say, to me, it doesn't make sense to move away from an integrated system, but I don't know the back end, so.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're not integrated. They're isolated.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I wish they were integrated, but they're not. They're two standalone systems.
I mean, those forms, you could have the parent go and put in their email address and then have like a link sent to that email address with the previous information already within that form. So it's kind of secure. Like if you hold their email address within the system,
Yeah. It can be
Yeah.
done that way.
They get
Yeah.
a special link with, they click on the link and then the form would pop up with the year's previous information already.
I'd have some worries about, we have both HIPAA and FERPA requirements. I'd have some concerns about that data, even if it is somewhat secure, not being secure enough. So I think we'd have to address those issues to make sure that we are in compliance.
The other thing too to consider is to keep the, we're talking about the school choice policy, right? Tammy, that's the thing that's kind of the one we want to collect data on. So if we,
isn't it, it's not just school choice, it's the annual registration forms and emergency.
Yeah, it was like
it's everything.
all the initial forms, the health forms that parents have to fill out, all of that stuff.
Yes, okay, that does change the game. I was going to say, if it's just the school choice, then keep it to non-FERPA protected data and, use a simpler system. But if you're talking about all that health data and demographic data, then yeah, I would definitely want to make sure we remain compliant with FERPA and COPPA and all that stuff, HIPAA, SIPA.
All the pause.
All the pause. Okay. So let's pose that question to Ed and see what he says about that. And then I think we should just keep an eye. I mean, it sounds like we're all pretty on the cautious side, on the conservative side of security anyway. So I think that's a good stance in this case. Let's keep that stance. Any other things about forms, Tammy, or anyone else?
No, that was all I think, right, Mark? Did I forget anything?
No, that's everything. I do want to credit Kate for those suggestions.
Right.
So they were really good suggestions for us to at least look into. So thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Kate. Okay. Any other items for today? Before we go back to double back on item 5.
Do we, at this point, owe them any homework?
I looked at the to-do list on the spreadsheet, and I think everything is in progress. Let's see, look at the minutes, Tammy. We were supposed to send old logos. I sent a couple of old logos, but I didn't have much.
Yeah, I sent what I had. It wasn't logos. It was, for us, we did mascots, so.
Mascots, that's what I mean. I'm sorry, mascots.
And Derek, I believe you CC'd or sent the International Baccalaureate media kit to Ed or Cynthia, right?
I sent all that to Cynthia.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right. So I think that's all we had. I'm assuming they would reach out to us if there was any other assignments. I didn't see any emails.
And can I just suggest we circle back to the navigation now that we have Chad sitting in, it looks like it might be Empire State Building?
Are you in New York, Chad?
No, it's just a backdrop that the company put on my Zoom account, and I don't know how to change it, and it works, so it always appears. But I am in downtown Wilmington and about to come to a rested position where I can really focus. Well, I mean, listening is easy, but interacting can be more focused. So, ready to go. And thanks for your patience on the lack of cell service coming over the hill.
No problem. So before you get settled, do you have anything about the navigation, or do you want to wait a minute till you get settled, Chad?
I don't have anything to add at this point on the nav.
Okay, sounds good. Any other agenda items before we jump back on number 5, which is really kind of the purpose of our main purpose of our meeting today? Okay. Well, let's go back and talk about 5 a little bit. And I think it was, we had intended to have Ed here to answer questions. So in his absence, I was thinking what we could do is if we can list what our hopes and dreams are for this document management piece and what we think maybe the barriers are, then at least Ed would have something to go on in terms of what our hopes are. So That said, I was kind of hoping we could go around the room figuratively and give everybody a chance to just get the voice in the room about document management. And we talked a little bit about this with our minutes and our agendas, but it is part of the problem is, managing all these documents and doing it in a way that's both has good workflow and presents the material clean, clear, and concise to the public. So anybody want to jump in on this?
I will. Or
ahead, Mark.
Go ahead. You look like you're about to.
Me?
You look like you're about to say something.
Well, I was just thinking, and again, you've got more expertise, on the IT side, but certainly a chronological entry is important. Are we going to have different folders for, from board meeting to, policy committee, website implementation committee, so we're easy to find? And are they going to be searchable, whether by keyword or date? Things like that just happen to pop to mind. Should we have, again, being very new to the entire board, the first issue that's come before me really is dealing with the solar situation at Dover and being able to go retroactive and find out the relevant information, when it was discussed, and sort of the context of conversations. So that's sort of like rolling through my mind is how we can make it better moving forward so that if we do have an issue or we just want to be, reinformed, it's easy to go through.
So I'd say searchable is of tantamount importance. I don't know whether it should be top level, like there's a search box for the whole website, then that includes the documents. I think I'd probably lean more towards a search within the document section that would search all the documents, so that you're not bringing up, talking about solar, you're not bringing up the history in newsletters or something. I definitely think that we should have separate sections, depending on how we do it, for committees. It drives me a little nuts that when I go into the minutes folder for RVUSD, I've got to figure out which ones are board, which ones are policy, which ones are WIC. Everything's in there together. I also would like to see separate folders for drafts. I hate having drafts and approved documents, be it minutes, agendas are usually set, but that's just me. I like folder structures. And there my dog is dropping a whole bunch of paperwork on herself. I don't have enough folders.
Hey, Mark, just so you know, it's better that Cabernet is dropping papers on herself rather than dropping Cabernet on your papers.
That is true. That is true. The cat has done that. Cabernet's never dropped herself on papers though, but the cat has definitely dropped Cabernet on papers more than once. I went with stemless glasses because of my cat.
So I wondered, are you good, Mark? Is that everything you had to add?
No, but I have to take this phone call. Can you hold on 1 second?
Yeah. While Mark's chatting, I think that there's just a couple things. I'd like to make sure we have a good, solid naming scheme for our documents. I think that's something that, as we manage the documents, it's been kind of hard. Like he said, you've got approved, you've got draft, you've got all these things. I think it's important to have a good, solid naming scheme. And then I think I'd like to hear from you guys, because the idea of drafts and approved in the same folder is really kind of an organizational thinking approach. Like for me, I want all the things related to today's meeting in one folder, right? That's just my organization style. But what Mark's talking about is having separate folders. I don't know, we can check with him now that he's back. But Mark, I was just saying it would be good for us to kind of talk about the folders, because I think it's a organizational structure style, and people do differ a little bit. For example, I want a folder for today's meeting, and I want everything about today's meeting in the folder, including draft, and when it's approved, I want the draft gone, and I want the name changed to approved, you know, those kinds of things so that we can keep track. But I think that's kind of a style, and I just wanted to get a sense from folks if you either had an argument one way or another in favor of that or against it or another idea.
So I'll jump in. As you probably can see, I like that too, from my perspective. But I think what I prefer to see in a document management system set up properly would be able to do this very easily. Probably the ability to do both. But I think from an open meeting law perspective, we should have separate agendas, minutes, and well, yeah, those two. Obviously, we need policies folder. So what I prefer to see is document management system that has a date assigned to files, the meeting date, and then somebody can select a date and go and it will pull in all of the files from that date. I don't know whether there is an add-on in Google for Google Drive that can do that. There are document management systems that integrate with Google Drive. I've never used them. I've never had the need to, so I don't know them well.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I wonder if maybe Ed has some experience or some suggestion. Derek, do you have any experience, or Chad, in your line of work where you've come across that?
Nope.
No.
No.
How about you, Tam? Have you seen anything like that? No. Okay.
So my world of document management comes from the legal field.
Yeah.
Which is probably significantly more than we need, because it's not going to be working documents also, at least these, but the ability to cross-reference, I think would be really helpful. And in fact, when a document is uploaded, either by file name or by using tags, they should be able to be uploaded to a single location, and kind of distributed by whatever the mechanism is that somebody is, somebody's wants the minutes, and they click minutes for 2022, then everything that has that name or that tag on it gets pulled in. That way Meg has just one folder and uploads.
That would be so awesome.
And that's really not hard to do, but it does require, back end, some sort of database in the back end.
Well, let's see what Ed has to say about that, because I think that would be, I would love to see something really slick like that with the tagging. I think that makes a lot of sense.
I would too. I started looking at website last night at some of the websites that I had linked to you guys in the past, and a bunch of other schools across the country, and they some have sophisticated back-end systems, but we're talking about, like the Chicago School District, but most are probably using Google Drive and being uploaded to different folders. So there's nothing attractive or sophisticated about it. I have no problem being the first one in Vermont, or the first one in Southern Vermont, or whatever the case is, to do something that is, beyond out of the box.
Agreed. Any other comments on that, you guys? It's been a lot of Mark and me talking.
Well, I just had I guess, excuse me, a question on the tags. We're talking a lot about date. Mark, how would you envision the tags working? I mean, we're pulling sort of like keywords from the agenda. For example, kind of at a loss. Like maybe intra-school. Do we create tags based? And I guess maybe this comes into how we create our system. But a keyword from each subject that's discussed within a meeting per se. Your thoughts there.
So the tags I'm referring to are more index is the wrong word, but kind of structural. So dates, committee, your basic what we see on a on some of the school websites that we've looked at, so that it's not content, it's what it is. So be
Okay.
it, so if it's today's meeting from WIC, it would be website implementation committee, today's date, and probably that's it.
So you're talking more titular than context. But can we also, so for example, if we want to differentiate between, website implementation, during committee and then during school board, like we brought an idea, or discussing the budget for this particular project. How can we do a sub level, I guess, where we can pull out specific subject matter, or to be able to identify that better? Because again, if we don't know which meeting, which board meeting this was discussed at, we need to be able to pull up the, a multitude to be able to look through, rather than saying, well, we think it was in the month of April, so let's look at, these two. Again, just looking for more streamlined integrity, I guess.
Yeah, I think I would rely on search indexing for that. So
Okay.
if you want to search website budgets, you just put in website budgets, and every document underneath the document, so be it minutes or budgets or committees, anything with those words will come in. I think if we start trying to tag for the purpose of searching, one,
Yeah.
who's gonna do it, and two, who's gonna decide what those tags are.
Right.
If we send a file to Meg and say, can you upload this, and all she has to do is, from a drop down, pick 2 or 3 things, date and board, committee, whatever the case is, that's easy to do. If we start telling her, read this and pick out 10 keywords I think that I don't think that that's feasible. It wouldn't be able to be maintained long term. So I would
I understand.
I'd rely on search indexing for what you're talking about.
Right. So we can use both in coordination.
Oh,
Is,
yeah.
I guess, my main question. Okay. Brilliant.
Yep. The search indexing would be for content, and the tagging would be for the purpose of whatever the front end is of pulling in the documents that essentially are being requested by the user.
Good question. Okay. I was wondering too, do we want to make some kind of outline that indicates the way the documents are presented in such a way? So like, Mark, you started talking about this, the idea of, within the documents, you have regular board meetings, committee meetings, and then under each of those two, you have your agendas, your minutes, and maybe your supporting documents. Something in an outline form. Does that make sense to anybody else, or is that just my brain being weird?
No, I think that makes sense.
And that way we could be consistent with it, and it might impact the design. If Ed determines that a data system is necessary for all these documents, and you're displaying information based on those data access tags, or those tags, you might be able to build the structure of how the documents are presented to the site based on those tags and an outline. So it might be, who knows, it might be easier, it might be more complicated. But just from a thinking perspective, I think it's good to have the sort of hierarchical view of how the documents will be presented, because it's complicated, right? There's committees, there's forms, there's policies, procedures, ultimately.
Warnings as well.
Warnings, exactly. Cool.
So I guess
Yeah,
I would, no,
go ahead,
go
Mark.
ahead. No, Chad, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking, the visual learner in me, as you're talking, Matt, is seeing basically when you open, your file browser, and there's desktop, and then you have, your various subfolders and the documents in that folder, that sort of tree system, if you will. Pardon me for without the IT background. But I think, is that kind of what we're getting at?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And that's exactly the tags would replace a tree structure, just for simplicity in use by essentially whomever is uploading the documents.
Right. You wouldn't have to have that. You wouldn't have to have that tree structure in mind if you had the tags, because they would organize the documents.
Essentially, the tags become like a hyperlink. Is that a fair way to assess it?
I don't know if I'd say that. I think of it more like the tags determine the organization of the documents, so that, instead of having a static tree structure like you're used to seeing in your C drive or one of your directories, you might think of it as a container of documents that would all have the same tag, but some documents will have multiple tags and they could go in different containers. So that would be revealed through either the keyword search or a tag search. But in presenting the documents, I still think you're going to want something visual like a tree or an outline, so that people can have that concrete structure and that it's consistent.
So, Chad, I think the easiest way to think of it is tags. You take the names of the folders, and those are your tags. But you can have that same file linked into many different folders, so it can have multiple tags.
Gotcha.
In the Unix Linux world, it's called a symlink. So you can have multiple symlinks to one file and get to it from many different directions.
Gotcha.
So I think I would start, if we start at the top level, I'd start with board documents, being board meetings, and then committees, and then policies and procedures.
That makes sense to me. And then under each group, so under board meetings, you would have warnings, agendas,
Minutes.
and
Supporting documents.
now would you have under board meetings, would you then have it sorted by date of the meeting? I mean, would that be a folder under board meetings and then have all of these things in each meeting folder?
So I think what I'd want to see is, for example, you have a board meeting button. You click on it, it opens up to a drop-down menu with dates, or maybe not a menu, maybe just a speedometer-like date thing. So you can put in the date you want, so that somebody can find something on a specific date.
Mark, with that,
so many different ways to do it.
Yeah, the odometer that you're talking about, is that something that we, rather than having it be, all dates, all month, days, and years, that we actually program with each subsequent meeting, so that it's not overloaded? Because I think, for a user, I think they had a board meeting, like if you look at our annual meetings on a Tuesday, but we're used to seeing those meetings on, all of our meetings are on a Monday, coming up here on the 25th or 26th, we would say April 26th rather than, I think it was on a Monday, and kind of sort through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and in listening to you talk, I think I'm probably going with the year, month type thing. So if you pick your year, then you pick your month.
Yeah, I kind of like that, because I think even if we had every single one, we're adding a whole lot. We know we're going to have 2, maybe 3 meetings in a given month. That's just, a small snapshot, within that calendar, if you will. I like where you're going.
Have a date range selector.
You could have that. I do think that somewhere we need to, I think we need to have a way for, in addition to if somebody knows a date or a date range, if they are just looking for minutes, that they can pull up, all the 2022 minutes or all the 2021 minutes, or agendas, so that it's divided. And I can't visualize what this would look like, but a way that the end user can, because I can see, I can see a parent, wanting to see what happened at a specific meeting where, a journalist may want to see, everything that happened for the last 6 months, different audiences.
Yeah, it's almost like you'd want a document type in there as well. Is it an agenda? Is it minutes? Is it a policy? It's part of the tagging.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and Mark, one of the things I'm thinking about too is, we, again, being new to the board, but we've had, as we review things, there's an awful lot of paper. If we can leverage the technology to be a little bit more environmentally conscious, I guess, so we can put a bullet point in our agenda, like we're going to discuss, as, from, and then we can, notate, like we want to bring up the conversation from, the minutes that were on April 18th, 2022. We don't have to print those out for everybody. We all have, computers and devices that, within the meeting, we can go directly to that location. And whether or not, we provide, a hyperlink to actually get there, or it's just noted, again, coming from your legal world, we're looking at chapter 3, section 4, subparagraph A, boom, that's all right. Everyone got it. And that way we're not, wasting and using a whole lot of paper that's unnecessary. And I think it might help capture and recapture the conversations, a little bit more fluently in perpetuity as well.
Yeah, I think some of that, to some extent, is personal preference. Every meeting, I print out the whole packet. I'm a paper person.
Yep.
I need to be able to flip through paper. Other people are perfectly good with a tablet or computer in front of them. So I think some of that's matter of personal preference, but the policy stuff is always linked. The stuff that I sent for the agendas,
Yep.
That stuff is always just hyperlinks. I don't even think that stuff gets included in the packets anymore, other than the links, which is exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It probably is. There probably could be a way to create a way for a board member to pull up the packet, of everything for a meeting date. The problem with that is we're having documents that are being transmitted or printed at last minutes, or so I'm not sure that it would make sense to be able to get everything online ahead of time, but definitely some of it.
Yeah, well, I'm saying, more the reference stuff. I mean, you're absolutely right. As we come up with things that are, changed and not able to be uploaded, immediately, it's a busy time of life for everybody in their roles that we all enjoy. And I'm thinking about, Lori, throughout the budget, we point out like, oh, we have a misspelling or we have a mislabel. They're constantly making updates, up until we're, ready to go on the final. Like that absolutely makes sense. But, as a reference tool, I think it would be handy. And, I think, all of us, we can call ourselves kind of that older generation, but as we see, our kids now, and as especially, coming through, and there's so much that, they're relearning, essentially how to do. So while you and I were definitely a paper generation, that's slowly going away. And so again, I think it just builds us for the future and the next generation of board members too. And I think that's, again, nothing wrong with how we're doing it, but, to have, like you said, a sort of a cutting edge tool, out of the box, let's be kind of a trendsetter, if you will. It gives us that opportunity to do that by having a really detailed system for reference.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think my original thinking on a document management system was that it was even going to go beyond kind of board documents to the work aspects of it in the back end, so that when Peter goes to open up a document for minutes, he's opening up a document that's assigned an index number, and that becomes a draft automatically, and so that was my original concept, which has shrunk down to this that we're talking about now, which is really just an organizational aspect of the documents rather than true document management.
Yeah.
But I'll just say this really quickly, Chad. I would bring up in one of our board meetings just the idea of having more hyperlinks on our agendas. That I think that would be a good idea. When people can print things if they wanted, or we can have a couple. But I think it would be a great idea to just bring up at a meeting, so that it's the whole board kind of deciding this is a direction that we want to go.
Sure. No, I agree. And I think also because, the technology aspect that we're introducing, where we do have and want people to be able to join us without showing up. We print out a few extra packets for the public should they come, but if they're at home, they should have access to, what we're discussing and talking about as well. And that might be, another impetus for doing so.
Great. Sorry, Matt.
Good idea. Okay, so I'm looking at the clock. We got 5 minutes. So a couple of things I'd like to come out of this discussion with is a list of items that we can send to Ed. I think we have a pretty good list. The only other thing that is on my list that I wanted to ask you all is the home for the documents. To me, that makes the most sense that the home for these documents belongs in wyndhamcentral.org, not wyndhamcentralboard.org, not RVUSD. And here's why. wyndhamcentral.org and the school sites are all authorized Google for Education domains. wyndhamcentral.org is the place where the people doing the work on these documents are working in. It's their context. So I think there's some value to that. However, I brought it up because I'm open to your ideas for alternatives. So if anybody's thinking of another justification for another possibility, this would be a great time to share that.
I'll just share my thinking on that. I feel like we got our answer to that when I more or less directly asked Bill whether he wanted Wyndham Central to be a part of kind of our general discussions for document management, and he basically said no, not at this time. I think we have to do what's going to work for River Valleys. As since we're talking essentially about at this point uploading PDFs. I'm not sure that it really matters where they're housed, whether it's on a Google Drive on Wyndham Central or Wyndham Central board, or if it's on Edgeworks storage. It's the document management, what we want to build, I think is going to dictate where the documents are more than anything. While in general, I would agree with you that it should be on Wyndham Central. I don't want to be held back by that.
Fair enough. So we'll pose that. I'm happy to pose that question to Ed, but I do want to at least make sure that we're considering the fact that probably 95% of the work that's going to be done with these documents is going to be done by people in the context of wyndhamcentral.org. And flipping context will create errors, confusion and mistakes. I speak from experience.
If it is a Google Drive that is the base of it, then that's easy. Any user in the Google realm can be given edit permission so that they can upload. So I think that's sort of I think it will come down to Ed. But because we're not talking about working documents, we're just talking about reference and display documents. I personally am a little less concerned about where they sit, just because I would love to be building this system so that other parts of Wyndham Central can kind of just jump onto it, but they're not giving us that they don't have that interest right now in that. So we're building this for River Valleys, and if they want it, they're going to end up having to build their own separately.
But I think we're making decisions that could potentially extend it to the other districts should they decide to get on board, and I think that's good.
I would hope so. Yeah.
All right. So final thoughts in terms of the list of things to send to Ed. Tammy, do you feel like you have a decent sense of that and notes?
I think so. Yeah, I listed all the hopes and dreams that everyone had named. Matt, are you going to will you share this link with Ed so that we can draw his attention to the topic that you guys were just bringing up as far as where the document should be housed? That's not necessarily on the hopes and dreams list.
Yeah, I want to send Ed our notes as well as the video link.
Yeah, so anything that we needed to bring up to Ed, I noted in the minutes, this should be brought up to Ed. So
okay, perfect.
Really see
perfect.
those items.
So Tammy, would you send out the draft minutes so that we can have a chance to make sure that our thoughts are all captured on that?
Yeah, they're shared with everybody right now, but I can reshare them for sure.
Perfect. Yeah, just send an updated link. And then if anybody sees something that's not represented on the notes that we maybe should make sure Ed knows about, just do a reply all so we know, I think, and then we'll send off the draft to Ed. Okay. Any other comments about the information going to Ed or otherwise? Excellent.
I have the list of stuff I'm sending to Cynthia.
Cynthia?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Just so that we have it in the minutes. I got the link to Brattleboro TV site for RVUSD, tech resources on the school sites, not district, an environmental safety name under facilities for district site.
Sounds good to me. Okay. Our next meeting is Thursday, April 28th, and that's kind of what we set up as a standing meeting as the last Thursday of the month. Is everybody okay with that? 10 a.m.?
Yep, I look good.
Well, all right then.
All good.
Sounds good, everybody. That's all I got for you today. I think we can, if there's anything else, we can hit the adjourn button.
All right. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Adjourning at 11:02. Have a good week.
You too.
Take care, everybody.
See you next week.
Bye-bye. Mark, would you send me the link so I can send it to Ed?
Give me a second.
The video link?